Hello and welcome everyone to today's workshop on low-code eSports analytics with Oracle Resource Manager and Apex. Thank you for joining us. My name is Tara Van Cleve and I'm a marketing event manager for the developer initiative here at Oracle. Today, we're excited to get hands-on and deploy infrastructure with Resource Manager, set up a data ingestion engine, and explore data in Apex. If you do not currently have an Oracle Cloud account, you can head over to bit.ly/try-OCI-0608 for today's date to get signed up. You'll have extra credits for the event so that you can try out the services and follow along with the lab steps. We will be going over how to get started in just a minute. We'll also be recording the session, so if you'd like to complete the lab later on at your own pace, we'll be sending the link to the recording via email shortly after the workshop concludes. If you have any questions during the workshop today, we've set up a channel in our developer public Slack called Webinar Red Bull Esports that you can access at the QR code or at bit.ly/odevrel_Slack. Once you're in, you'll land in the general channel, and from there you can search for the webinar channel. We'll also be checking the Zoom chat and the Zoom Q&A areas throughout, and we'll open up for live Q&A after the workshop. Today's workshop will be presented by Wojciech Pluta, Cloud Native and Immersive Tech Advocate, Stuart Coggins, Director of Cloud Strategy, and Jason Lowe, Cloud Engineer. You can access the lab guide by following this link here. And before I turn it over to Wojciech, we will begin with a short clip presented by Victor Martin on how to set up your cloud account.
Hi, I'm Victor Martin from Oracle Cloud. I'm going to walk you through the steps to sign up for an Oracle Cloud free tier. Please follow along and pause the video when you need it. Oracle Cloud Free Tier gives you a set of always free cloud services. These services will be available forever. 2 autonomous databases, 2 virtual machines, up to 4 ARM processors virtual machines. You will also have a load balancer, block, object, and archive storage, monitoring, and much more. As part of your Oracle Cloud Free Tier, you will also have a 30-day trial with free credits to use in other services from analytics to Kubernetes. Sounds good, isn't it? Are you signing up for an upcoming workshop with us? Please make sure that you use the same email you use for the registration, as we have activated a special offer and you won't need your credit card to sign up. In any case, Oracle Cloud is not going to charge you for your trial. You actually have to explicitly tell us so when you are happy with all the Oracle Cloud services after your trial. Let's dive in. You need to add your country, then your first and last name. You also have to provide your email. Oracle Cloud has to check you are a human by asking you to resolve an easy challenge. Finally, click Verify my email to move to the next step. If your email has been activated for the offer, you will see the special Oracle Offer pop-up window with the type of offer already selected. Then click Select Offer. All the initial information is already in. Now you have to provide a strong password. I use a generated one, but you can select any you like. Just make sure you are in compliance with the strong password pattern. Confirm the password by typing it again. Fill the company name if apply. The cloud account name is essential as it is a unique identifier for your account. Select a name you like that is not taken. The home region is the region where you are more likely to deploy resources. You can deploy to other regions by subscribing to them. However, your free trial only supports one region. Select a region geographically close to you if you are not sure. I'm selecting Frankfurt region. At the bottom, click Continue. Fill the address information with city, postcode, county, and your phone number. Click Continue. The final step is to accept the agreement and click Start my free trial. Oracle Cloud starts provisioning your account. This takes on average 1 minute or 2. Then you are going to be redirected to the Oracle Cloud web console. Can you see the message "Your account is currently being set up"? It means that some services will still be unavailable for a few more minutes. Just keep it in mind. When Oracle Cloud fully provisions your account, you will receive an email. I will show you that in a few seconds. Go to the menu to explore Oracle Cloud services. Also, the search bar is a friendly tool as you can search for compute instances, Kubernetes engine, analytics services, cost tools, user management, autonomous databases, Apex instances, and much more. On the right side, you will see the region you selected when you sign up. The next icon is Cloud Shell, a small free Linux instance with several tools pre-installed and configured like OCI CLI and languages like Java, Node, Python, and more. You can close Cloud Shell now, confirm with exit. The next one is announcements for updates from Oracle Cloud. The following is the help icon, where you can find documentation links, chat with us, post questions in our forums, and finally create a support request and request a limit increase. The next icon is to change the language, and the final one is the profile icon, where you can see your user information, your tenancy, and the sign out button. After a while, the message saying that your account is being set up will disappear. After a few minutes, you will also receive a Getting Started email and another one when your trial account is fully provisioned. Use the button in the email to sign in whenever you want in the future. You are all set up to enjoy your new Oracle Cloud account. Happy hacking!
All right, and with that, Wojciech, I will let you take it away.
Thank you, Tara. Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Wojciech, and I will be the host of this workshop today. So I'll be joined by two of my friends, which are essentially my partners in crime in this. We've met a long time ago, over a year, and this project definitely brought us into a special kind of bond because they're actually dialing from Australia and it's middle of the night for them. So big round of applause for them for doing that. So it's today's workshop is essentially a culmination of our work over like 12 months, as I mentioned. And we are super excited to share it with you as a start in terms of being able to deploy and essentially stream your data into the cloud. I will now pass on to Stuart and Jason to say hello and introduce themselves if they're not asleep. Are you awake?
Yeah, we're awake. We're awake.
Not quite. All right, good.
No, it's all good. So good
Let's
to see
check.
everyone here. Jason Loeb here from Australia, so based in Brisbane. So I actually do recognise a couple of those names on the attendees list. So good to see a few familiar names on that. And it's been an interesting time over like the last 12 months where we've really actually dug in and actually put this infrastructure to good use. So good to be here to actually share this with what we've done. Over to you, Cogs.
Yeah, and thank you, everyone. So Stuart Coggins, based here in Sydney. If I'd have planned this properly, I would have had a nice can of Red Bull, just like product placement, like our friends over at Red Bull Racing. It's 2 a.m. here for those that were interested. I think it's the same in Brisbane, is it not, Jason?
Yes,
also super excited. We've been doing this for a very long time. We have run literally thousands of laps between us. Some more successful than others, but we've got all the data to prove it. So we have been asked many times, when are we able to share what we've done? And so exactly as Wojciech and Jason said, really excited to be able to get it out there and see what you guys come up with. We've had a bit of fun with it. There's so many things we can do here. So let's have some fun and see where we go from here. Thank you. Wojciech, back to you.
Thank you.
Back to London.
Back to London, back to the studio in London, yes.
Cool.
So let's take it away. So as Tara mentioned at the top, we have a lab guide and that is essentially consisting of all the steps that we're going to be covering today. And, we will obviously post a recording afterwards. So, you can obviously follow that up, as well as the lab guide going to be available for yourselves as well. So do ask questions. This is a hands-on session. So we would love for you to, join us and deploy it and share us the feedback as you go through each of the steps. We try to make it as easy as possible. So hopefully, the experience is going to be seamless and will allow you to, like Stuart said, spark some ideas and stream your data and see how it's looking. So very quickly, so as Stuart said, we've done lots of those type of deployments. Last year, we've done various iterations actually of the eSports analytics, and we've done various events where we actually, were able to, maybe some of you actually that on the call here joined us in some of those events. So if you did, give us a shout out. Love to hear, and find out maybe one of you. We already had the chat face to face. So yeah, the whole concept is the experiential demo of, capturing data while you're playing game. And I think, this is something that we've been passionate about and been essentially, dying to share it with you in terms of how you can do and set it up at home so that, you can sort of iterate and do some various, versions of it as well. So moving on, in terms of the agenda / task of today. So we're going to assume the role of a full stack developer. So, all of you here are now a full stack developers. So congratulations. So as we have obviously all the admin stuff out of the way, this is kind of, let's dive in. So the session is split into essentially 3 labs, where initially we're going to use Oracle user interface, also known as Cloud Console, and essentially we will deploy a backend using a tool called Oracle Resource Manager. And what that's going to give us is it's going to deploy our virtual machine, our database, and our front end where we can do our analytics and create a nice looking dashboard, which Stuart's going to take us through. But all of the deployment is going to happen hopefully with the click of a button. So without any further ado, let's dive in. So the screenshot that you're gonna the link from the lab is available in our GitHub, and then you're gonna be able to access have a availability of this post lab. So it's split into 3 labs there. So as you can see, there's lab 1 about the deployment, the data ingestion, and then the Apex configuration and so on. So just to kind of let you know, between the lab 1 and lab 2, we will have essentially a data ingestion that's going to be cloned into our virtual machine. That repo is also available on our GitHub. So it is possible for you to just use that, and maybe instead of VM, deploy it on your edge device like Raspberry Pi or something. So it's modular. But we try to kind of make it as easy to use as possible. There's a couple of packages also that we placed in the release folder that we're going to use during our deployment. So the link and the lab structure itself should be presented to you using this format. So in there, you can actually see, the introduction and some of the things that we just showed you in terms of the deploying the free trial account and so on. So again, if by any chance, you want to carry this on and maybe come back to it in your own leisure, it's all out there for you. So let's start with the lab number 1. So let me just open that. And as we mentioned, we're gonna use the resource manager, which is essentially our automation tool that allows us to then deploy all of the services to our platform. So within that guide, what you can actually do, you can click on the button that is the deploy to Oracle, and then it's going to ask you to sign up to your cloud account, hopefully that you created before. And once you actually authenticate, it's going to present you with this type of screen. So that allows you to start configuring your environments. So there are some details, obviously, in terms of the steps over here. So I'm just going to kind of run through it. It's pretty straightforward. It's all UI based. So and it allows you to, quite quickly to choose what you can do and choose the different resources required. So I'm just gonna sort of click next to the next step. And then within here, we have our general configuration. So this is essentially picking up our resource manager, our Terraform, which is allowing us to configure and the deployment. So from the top, at the top, we have our information about the package. So like I said, we have a bit of automation that we created in terms of the deployment of the database, which is using a liquid base, and essentially through there you can define or actually iterate around what we put as a vanilla sort of configuration. So this is always going to pick up the package that you deployed, and those packages are actually sitting in this space. So essentially we're telling it to use this to this cloud configuration. Then when we scroll down, what we're going to see is the compute. So as I mentioned, we're going to use our virtual machine to actually run our cloud ingestion, and then within there, we can set up what is the type of the configuration that we want in terms of the shape and so on. So I'm going to keep it as E4, and then I'm going to select an image, which I'm going to choose the latest one. Again, you can define your various configuration components. We tried to sort of predefine it for you and make them as optimized, but you can obviously change it yourself. Important bit is being able to authenticate to our virtual machine. So what we did then here is we created an option where you can either use your locally stored SSH key, or you can just generate one using our cloud shell. So let me reselect the config. So yeah, I mean, usually you can either upload it from your local repo or just paste it here. So I've actually within the lab guide, we also specified what are the steps that you need to do. So I just need to either cd into my home directory and then
so I think you're defaulting to your home directory anyway.
Correct. Yeah. So in here, I created my key before, so I can just literally now just run cat and data ingestion, and then all I can do is just copy this and then paste it in here, right? So that's one thing done. I can minimize that. So moving on, we can define our database. So, I can define the name of it, whether I want it to run on a free tier or not. And then the type of the workload, whether it's the transactional processing, data warehouse, or our JSON.
So if you're running this out there, you'll need to set that as we're going to use the free tier, right? So
yeah.
So you turned off free tier for us, but yeah.
I'm just out of the free tier resources. But yeah, so moving on, yeah, so I can change that as various names. I can obviously add that, and then with regards to the database configuration, what we have is we can define our password if we want to. If we don't, we can just leave it blank, and then that's pretty much it. So I can just click next, and I can just click create, and that will run and create my resources. So that's essentially
coming back to that password. Then if you leave it blank, it will create a random password, and then as part of the end of it, then once it's actually configured everything, then you'll get that password, so you can then log in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So let's stop it here. And let's, for those people that are following the lab, let us give you a few minutes to see, how you get on, and feel free to ask any questions. Cool. I think the poll is saying that we are ready to move on. So I will carry on because, my service is actually deployed now. So as we can see, it's succeeded. It's started a few minutes ago. And essentially what I have is, a log of what happened, right? So it's telling me about, the scripts, how it's granted the users, how it created the tables, and then, how it actually cloned and executed all the packages, and essentially added my wallet. To make the lab easier, what we did, we actually created an output section, which is going to be very handy in the next step, because what we can do now is actually log into our VM machine and configure our packages and so on. So let me open that up. So I can just copy this with the difference that I need to change my there we go. So I am now in my VM, and that is essentially my ingestion engine. So in there, I have a cloned repository, which is this one, that is ready for me to configure. So let me just get into that repository, and over here is essentially all of the source code that that we built. So as you can see, the wallet is already there. It has a bin folder, which has all the executables. And then we have our template that we're going to configure in a minute.
Yeah, just to explain that the wallet zip file is the secure mechanism that we've got to connect to the autonomous database. So we did that as part of the Terraform script and was able to deploy that there. So you can make that connection.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So essentially, we concluded the lab 1, and now we are in a lab 2. So as you had mentioned, this is actually, there's possibilities of where you actually run this code. Today we are running in VM, but we can run it on any edge devices and so on. So so just to kind of give you all of the steps I'm going to take there, right? So you can, we have all sort of created them so that you can follow it, at your leisure, or follow the guide with it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run the install DI, install data ingestion. And that is going to essentially set up the whole environment for us. I don't know, Jason, do you want to add anything here while I do that?
Yeah, so what we've got is several different pieces of infrastructure in play as part of that data ingestion. So one of the things we did find, especially when we're in conference environments with really busy networks and a lot of data everywhere, we've actually installed RabbitMQ as part of the Pi infrastructure to do that storing forward. So what we found is that helped us actually not lose any data. So we want to make sure that the data gets up there so you can get the best analytics out of it. So from there, we've got a consumer to actually write that to the autonomous database up as part of our Oracle Cloud. We are at a point here within the instructions where we've got that installed Python version, so 3.9. So yeah, type that in there, Wojciech. So we're using Python to listen for the UDP packets from the game itself, and then we've got another component in Python that actually then sends that off to autonomous database. So let's just put a RabbitMQ user. Now, this isn't actually required for the data ingestion. For some of the other things that we do around this, and Stuart's done a fair bit of work around this we've got a client that uses MQTT and WebSockets to do live telemetry. So we use that.
I'll show you that.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So Wojciech, put a username password in there because we need to have someone. We do need username.
Hey, can I ask a rabbit in the room question?
Not an elephant.
Not an elephant in the room. It's too late for that. It's a rabbit in the room question.
Yeah, go for it.
Should we use Java to do the ingestion?
We could.
Right? Yeah.
All right. So
we're working on it, right? Somebody's working on it. So it's a question we get asked because obviously the Java connection, but we use Python because not everyone uses Java, but we do have that in the works as well for those that might want to do this. And if anyone wants to take it on, we got the new version of F120 or F123 is out next week. So yeah, we'll be working on an update to do the new game, but Java would be a great way forward. In fact, any language that you could connect to the database with would be useful.
Well, one of the earlier versions from Python was actually a Node.js version that we originally saw. So I
had
don't
a few
think
more grey hairs when I did that.
I don't think it actually is. To me, in a lot of these cases, it's not about it's more of a language of choice to actually get the job done as opposed to a specific framework of sorts. So I think a lot of these things, especially from my data science things that I've been working on, Python was a natural place for where I was building these things. So it just makes sense for the point in time.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks, guys. So yes, so I am now at the stage of that the environment's been set. So if you have a look, we went through running the install data ingestion, we specified the Python version, and then like Jason said, we created RabbitMQ login and password, right? So the next thing that we need to do is configure our connection and essentially set up this F1 store YAML, which is the template that is should be cloned. So what we can do is just copy that and run that in our Cloud Shell. Then we can just quickly get inside our config file. So I'm going to just sort of make it bigger for a couple of seconds while we talk through it. So a lot of this I pre-configured for the session, but there are several options that you could choose, right? So we used game host in various occasions to define, where the data is coming from. So I just put it as Terraform, but you can obviously change that to anything you like. There's the device name, again, quite helpful. Version refers to actually the game packets version. So she would mention the new game is coming up next week. The new packet definition is out. So yeah, you can actually define inside the game. Yeah. So there's not many changes, right? But it's a few little, but and then the next bit is about, I guess, the mechanism in terms of how you store and debug and how you actually get the data into it. So we have a couple of options in terms of the local storage, the database, and RabbitMQ, and then the forwarding, where that is, going directly to the database or storing it locally, right? Now, Jason, do you want to add anything there? Or?
Yeah. So as you said, there is that store and forward type mechanism there. Locally, if you want to write it locally, if you want to introspect into packets and those kind of things, and that's all possible. And then each of these sections, as you got the RabbitMQ configuration, you got the Oracle database configuration. We've extended the model such that there are ways of, if you want to build your own endpoints, to send that off to somewhere else. So we've seen people do things about sending it off to Kafka queues or Oracle streaming, or even just talking about the other day, writing it locally and then sending it off to a storage bucket for more data science type processes with Apache Spark or Dataflow in OCI. It's very much extensible depending on where you want to go with that.
Sweet. And then, this is essentially now the section that we're going to have to update. So we have the RabbitMQ information in terms of the user and the password. So I can be lazy, so I just set it up as already something that depending on I can just reuse. So these are the two, but you're gonna have to update it with the ones that you specified. And then the main thing is to actually update the information about our database connection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize that and essentially use our outputs from the resource manager, because the reason why we put all that stuff there is just that we can sort of quickly and easily, copy and paste it into our YAML files. So I am gonna just literally just copy as it is. So so as you can see, database user, same as the Apex user, just to make it easy. Then there's the password, which is again coming from there. And so I can just copy that. This is the connection to the database URL. So again, all of that, some special characters there. And this is essentially our wallet path. And then the final thing is our wallet password. So there we go. Obviously, if you decided to add anything, yourself, then they're going to be different. But that is pretty much it. So I can close that. And then if you follow the guide and see, well, to actually run the service, there is a start command. I can just copy and then run that in there. So that is essentially starting all the services. And then I can check the status of them. So there's another file essentially that is running a service status. So I can see I'm kind of up and running to receive data. And So now if I would have my game running, I would put that IP address in my game settings, and that would essentially allow me to load the data directly there. For the purpose of today, we generated some test data, and essentially just to make it a bit easier, we can just run this ube command that's gonna just populate our data set. Magic.
So it's an interesting point to make here, just for those that may have noticed what Wojciech did in the YAML file there. We write everything as JSON data. So Autonomous will take JSON. You're not that Jason, the other Jason. We're making you change your name, Jason. We dropped the A.
Yeah.
So we write everything as JSON. So the Autonomous database is 100% Mongo compatible. So we did it that way to keep it a bit open. So if anyone is using Mongo tools, you can connect through as well. So it does allow us to be a little bit flexible on that data model. So as the new data fields come through, we just write whatever comes. You'll notice that we also filter specific packets out of the game, and we only write certain ones that we care about. One of our colleagues also in London brings every single packet into the database. So you can do that as well. So you can so you can see how that YAML is formed, and then you can actually take it to a stage further if you prefer. So you'll see us how we use the YAML a little bit later when we do the Apex piece.
Yep, perfect. So as you can see, so I just ran the session. So my producer is stating that there's a new session. This is the number, and this means essentially that I now have the data in my database. So I did not mean to do that. But if I would, for example, open this link and go into my Apex, and again, use my credentials, log in. So workspace, again, all in the outputs. So I can just paste that in here. User, well, it's the same, but again, pretty straightforward. And then we have the password. There you go. So I'm in the Apex tool. I can actually just very quickly go to my object browser to actually see where the data is there. So I can open my table. Well, let's go to lap time. It's an amazing Miami lap that Jason was so kind and recorded for us.
It wasn't a good one.
It wasn't a good one. Oh, okay.
No judgment. There's no judgment on that time.
Dwell on this, right? So it's.
It was 3 o'clock in the morning.
Well, so this kind of time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so this is, I guess, this concludes the lab 2. Let us know how you get on, and then we will, happy to answer your questions, and hopefully you will be able to follow with us and then move on to the styling the dashboard that's going to be run by Stuart.
Have you been following the LinkedIn and YouTube stuff with the blink cam? Because that is, they're quite amazing in terms of just watching that and how they go around the track.
Actually, those videos that have been done with Max, and I believe Checo's going to do some for us as well, but they're all recorded the same sort of mechanism that we did here. It's a very similar mechanism they're using. But the eSports guys are all over this, aren't they? We learned that the F122 puts out games at 60 hertz, so 60 messages a second, times however many packets you use. The new one, I believe, does 120 hertz, which
doubles,
which is very exciting. And actually, look, an interesting statistics while that video is going and people are potentially typing, and my time to put people off. We had a chat with the eSports team about the data output, and at 60 hertz, when the car is doing 320 kilometers an hour, we actually get a record every 85 meters. Sorry, it's 85 meters per second. So we actually get a record every 1.5 meters on track. And the eSports guys were complaining that 1.5 meters is actually too big a margin. So they actually were looking for smaller. So when we get 120 hertz, we'll have to work. I'm going to go and work out what the meterage is on that. Yeah. I'm not actually sure how many centimeters that is.
Look, guys, I think we're ready to move on. The poll.
Yeah, someone did actually ask about F1 Manager game and whether we could be adapted for that. I think it really depends on we're just using the straight telemetry options out of the game, so we're not doing any game hacking per se to get access to the data. So if F1 Manager has a similar capability to push that out to the network over UDP, TCP, whatever that may be, even WebSockets, then this could very easily be adapted to that kind of model.
And that goes for any of the racing games that put out telemetry. We do have another hands-on lab for League of Legends, which does something very similar. Again, you can actually take the data being generated by these games. So the Python script is basically a translator from the UDP packets out into data that we can read. So that's the piece that would need to be done. So generally, they're very available. What you can find is there's a lot of commercial dashboards that you can get that plug into the games that do that stuff as well. So I'll show you one of the dashboards we built. And I know Wojciech's built one or two as well. So, it's pretty open, but any game that you do that streams data, technically you could tune this, stream it into the autonomous database and then play with the data.
Well, the beauty of this data is obviously that it spits out obviously X, Y's, and Z's, right? So I think that's even though if you want to build the front end that then sort of plays with that as we actually managed to in one of the demos we actually built the API that was allowing us to consume X, Y, and Z in augmented reality. So we were able to create augmented reality replay of the labs that you just did. So it's a whole bunch of different things that can be done with this data, which is quite exciting. Anyway, without any further ado, I think the poll is finished. I think we're gonna now move on to the lab number 3, which is about the Apex. So essentially what we just concluded is we were able to obviously create our stack with the networking, through our resource manager, with all the security and everything pretty much ready for us to stream the data. We configured our virtual machine, and as you saw, we were able to access our database, right? So the next final piece is our front end and user experience. And I'm gonna pass the sharing rights to you, right, Stuart?
So one of my favorite subjects, Oracle Apex or Application Express. So for those that don't know, this is our low-code development tool. I've been using this for a very long time. I love it. One thing I'll say is that you're very lucky with the timing. I don't know whether we planned it this way, but we're using 23. Sorry?
Of course we did, yeah.
Yeah, 23.1. 23.1 literally got added to Autonomous about a week or so ago. So super lucky that we get to use some of the new functionality. If you do use Apex and you haven't seen 23.1, you're in for a treat. If you have, awesome. Let's get on with it. One thing, I presume people are answering those questions, but one thing I'll show you, once you've logged in and those details that were on the Terraform output script, so you can log into your workspace. If you go into, so when you log in, you get this screen. I'm just going to show you super quick to have a look at the data. Now, without any judgment, this is some data that I did run in my instance here. please don't judge the lap times. I was kind of looking at two screens at once while I was doing it, and I was using the controller, not the wheel. They are shocking, but hey, they work. So as you can see there, I just did a quick JSON serialize. So you can see the data's been stored in the in JSON format. And what you'll see there is we have a little bit of information about where the device came from, what the game host was, which was in your YAML, which track I did. I used Melbourne, Albert Park. I used 22. And you can see the laps there, the lap times and the sector times. And there's a couple of invalid laps in there, but let's not worry about invalid laps. The game is ruthless. So what did we ask you to do in the lab? So in the lab, what we've done is we've given you some files to download there. So there's a zip file. If you unzip that zip, you will see there is an application that we've created for you. It's a very, very small app. So don't worry, we haven't built the whole thing and you have to just sort of look at someone else's code and go, what have they done? We've also included some style sheets, but let's talk about the application first. What we need to do is import that app. So we'll just go to App Builder, Import, and clever magic of Zoom, I will drag in my application here. Again, just dragging the F100 SQL from the zip file and click Next. I don't think I clicked it. There you go. So now click it. What this does is it just pulls it into Apex. The schema is the database username that you added from your Terraform, so that should be the same. I don't like using the word should, but hey, just check that that's the case. If you're using an I know, should, there's a reason should starts with sh. So auto assign a new application ID. I recommend doing that. If you're using apex.oracle.com or something else to do this, you will need to do auto assign. So just click on install. And that will take literally a few seconds. Boom, there we go. So now when I click back on my application builder, you'll see there's our app live labs. Now, what we can do here is just literally click run. And again, my same data from my Terraform. So here we go. Here's our simple Apex app. We've just got one page. I ran the Melbourne track. Obviously, we could make this a drop down, which we probably should do. And there is my two valid laps. 122. That's quite a reasonable time for Melbourne, isn't it? 122? No? Okay.
I've seen
Max did a 119.9.
You've done faster.
I have done faster. Max did a 119.9 here. So anyway, we'll leave that to one side. So there's our simple. So that's the first task is actually just to get this up and running. So what we've included in here, by the way, is a copy of the SQL that we create. So I'll just show you how we do what we've done in this page, just as a matter of interest. If you haven't seen Apex before, again, this is our low code. You haven't seen me type in much code. In fact, you haven't seen me type in any, but there is a tiny bit of code in here, low code. Some cases it's no code. This is a bit of SQL. So if you do understand SQL, it's kind of useful. Mostly it's HTML and CSS. This is SQL coming from the database. I just want to draw your attention to all I'm doing here is dragging out the data from the lap time table. So when you populate it with your test data or from the game, you'll see lap times. You can see here I'm filtering by the track and the packet format, being the game version. I'm also filtering only valid laps. Given some of the data I've seen, you might want to turn that off, and you can just comment out those two lines with a couple of dashes if you want to see all of the laps that you created. So I'm not going to embarrass myself by doing that. The other thing we do then is we just do a little bit of formatting. So I'm just using a couple of functions. There. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Doing a couple of functions here just to format that time. And obviously I'm adding some decimal places to my sector times. Hence we've got that. So you can play around with things like driver names. We can talk about that a little bit later. At the moment, we're just going to assume your name is driver. and your favorite team is Red Bull Racing. Of course, why wouldn't it be? And we only fetch 20 rows. So this is a leaderboard. So if you've got thousands of laps, you don't want that to be scrolling pages and pages. It's a leaderboard. And the one other thing I just mentioned is that I am using an analytic function here to do rank, which just tells me, obviously from 1 to 20 in this case, if I'd done 20 laps. So that's what gives us our data. You'll see that all the formatting here is my lap time from the game actually comes out in milliseconds. So I've just converted 82.704 to a 1 minute 22, which lap it was. And there's all that other data that we talked about. So that's the first task in the lab. Obviously, the one thing here is it doesn't look that nice. I mean, it's all right. It's pretty cool. If you're running enterprise applications, things like this are great. But what would be really nice is if we can just put some styling around this. Apex is HTML, JavaScript, and style sheets. So let's add a style sheet. Now, I'm just going to clear a few windows so that I can just find my style sheet and then figure out. So what we decided to do was we are now in here. We're going to do task 2. So what we need to do firstly is import. Oh, that's the other thing I did. Sometimes it's quite nice just to copy. So I didn't change anything there. Sometimes actually rather than edit this one, you might want to leave this one as the vanilla app. So what I can do is just copy this application. I'm going to make a new version. Just going to call it CSS. Copy app. Just takes a second or two. Okay, so now what I have is 2 applications. I've got one here with CSS. So what you'll find, there's a couple of buttons are all the same here. So that little shared components is the same as this button. So if you click on shared components, you can refresh that theme if you want to. I won't bother now, it only takes a second or two. But what we want to do is pull into the static application files. So this is where you can upload things like images, those sorts of things. Style sheets is in here. You'll see the Apex icons there already. Let's get rid of that Q&A window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in the 2 CSS files that we have put in that zip file for you. So the first one is called that. I think I can bring in both at the same time, actually. That. Probably should have just done that way.
And again, I think all the steps that in the file, it's all part of the folder instructions. So it's all there. So yeah.
So the nice thing about a newer version of Apex is you can now see and edit the CSS, the style sheet in line now. You used to have to edit it outside, but now you can edit them up in here. So we've created a few different various themes in here to make it a little bit more like an actual F1 style dashboard. So we've just imported our 2 style sheets. So the next thing we need to do, and they're the 2 there. So the next thing we need to do is go and add those to the application. So what we do is we go into themes, part of our user interface editing. We go into themes. The standard theme that comes with Apex is called Universal Theme, and it's been developed over many years, and it's getting better and better and better. I won't bother going through all of these. You can just click on styles to jump straight to the bottom, and you'll see the supplied styles that Oracle has added, including our very own Redwood, which is very nice. So if you click add style, we'll just call that eSports. And what I want to do is add in my URL. So this is in here. We're going to add in the Apex font, one of the ones that I just created. Now, what I didn't do, and I should have, was copied the URL from my screen, but I'll just copy it from here. Paste that into there. Click create. Click apply just to make sure that gets added. We're back to the top there. And then the next piece is to change the actual application itself. So what we do We'll go back to the application. I'll just go back. You don't have to go all the way back to the start here, but shared components, user interface attributes here. Okay. And this is where you'll see we've got a few choices here about things like icons, but we also have CSS, the other one that we created. So I'll go and copy that from there, paste in there. Thank you very much. So that's now added our other CSS. Now, if I run you'll see straight away there's some changes now. So just log, this is a different application, hence why that one looks like that. Just go and get the password again. Sooner we get rid of passwords one day, the better. So it's a little bit better, but it's still a kind of tiny bit messy. So we need to go and do some tweaks in here. But you can see now that what we've got is a little bit more styling over. We've obviously got the background, the fonts have changed, and some of the colors have changed here. Still looks like a dog's breakfast, as one of my old managers used to say. So the first thing we want to do really is get rid of some of them. We don't need all this stuff up here. When we run this, we generally run them as public pages. There's no identifiable information on here. So if we want to run an example of our leaderboards, you know, we've got maps and things, but we've made them quite nice. So we get rid of all of that stuff around the outside. So I can go straight back into edit page 1. And the first thing I want to do is change the page format. I'll just show you where I am in here. So we're going back to page 1. Oh, the other thing we do, and this is well worth experimenting if you do play with Apex, is that you can create your own page templates. So at the moment, we've used the theme default. What we've created, there is an existing one called minimal, no navigation. We've created an ultralight one where we stripped out a whole lot of stuff we really don't need. So we've put that as part of the application. You can create your own page templates, maybe slightly advanced, but it's just HTML. So don't overly panic about that one. So we'll just change that page template to minimal. The other thing I want to do is change that appearance to be eSports. So if you remember, I created eSports as a theme. So we just want to add that. So if I now do save, and then I refresh this page, I've lost some of that other stuff. Some of the things you can't see. Obviously, some of these are hard to see now, but I've got rid of some of that stuff that was around the outside, the menu, the navigation that we don't need for this page. We're getting there. It's getting closer, getting closer. So what else can we do? So I got rid of the breadcrumb bar. What we should do is add some CSS. Now, this is where it gets kind of nice. So what you'll see is in our SQL, we just pulled in data. But what we can do here is be a little bit cleverer. I'm just going to literally overwrite that with that code from the lab there. We're actually going to make our own style so you'll see these styles in the style sheet. We can actually determine what those styles should be using the data. So we can be a little bit clever about what they are. The other thing is with the driver, I want it to look a little bit like a Formula One style dashboard. So we've actually used a vertical line that looks like the team color and the driver name. We also have, by the way, responsive. So if it's on a small screen, it reduces the driver name to a very short. And you'll see we've got some clever code here with the short driver names. It's just the initials. So you can see how we've actually pulled through some HTML here, as well as some styling. Everything else is the same. Just save that just to make sure. So then what I did was I pulled in some new fields here. So I've now got some colors for my sector times. So the first thing we want to do is go to our sector time. And I should copy and paste them here. Oh, that's right. Yes, I missed a step. So one thing that if you remember, I showed you that we created some HTML in that SQL. You want to be able to escape special characters, otherwise you'll see the HTML. So we're just going to turn that off so we don't escape them. I'll just save that now. And then the next step is to literally change the sector time. So these will have colors. So what we're doing is we're replacing the output from sector 1 with this, and you can see here that we've got a class called lap time, and if you look at the style sheet, you'll see what that is. We also have a class that is defined by the SQL. So that's my new replacement for sector 1. I'm going to do exactly the same for sector 2, remembering to do that. Sector 3. I could have pasted all those in there all the time. There we go, so I'll just save that. The other thing is I don't really want those colors to show up on my dashboard, so I'm just going to hide them. I also don't need to do lap time. I don't need lap time in milliseconds because we're going to use the nicely formatted one. So just save that. And I think, oh, I spoiled it there. There's a spoiler in that hands-on lab picture. Okay, so there you go. So now we've got some nice colors. It still looks a little bit kind of messy with the borders and things and the white background. I don't know where that white background has come from. I missed the step, obviously. So what we're going to do now is just change. I'll go back to this. I definitely missed a step, haven't I? Because there's a white background in there. What we're going to do now is just go and, I know what I've missed. Sorry for scrolling. My page template, eSports. Oh, wow. That's interesting there, white backgrounds. Okay. I might have to find that while you guys are following along here. Go back to, right. So we're going to just tweak these regions. So each of these areas is called a region. So what we can do is change some of the styling in the region itself. So if you look in appearance, you can actually click here. What I want to be able to do is remove borders here. That's one way. We can then also go to this attributes here. And we can change this one. Will turn off row highlighting. We don't need that in this case. And we're going to do no borders whatsoever. Okay, save. The other thing I like to do, by the way, and it's not in the lab, but I turn off pagination. We're only doing 20 rows, so we can turn pagination off. And then when I do restart. So there is my my nicely formatted. Yeah, that's interesting that it's a white background. I'm going to have to figure out what step I missed to do that. But that's how we style this. We made it style quite nicely. Obviously, you can play with different fonts, and if you've got some corporate colors you want to do there, we tried to keep these a bit styled like F1 that time. But that's the end of that Apex styling. I'm going to go and tweak those white backgrounds. I must have missed a step. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Boys,
all the steps are there. All the steps are there.
Sorry?
So even
they're
though
all
you
there. Yeah, they're all there in the lab.
They are there.
I just wasn't following. Yeah. I'll go figure out what I did differently there. So that's kind of where we're headed. So if you get this bit right, and obviously I think Wojciech will play a video on this one, but you'll see how we go and style. And then the world is your oyster for styling this data. I'll show you some other tricks that we'll do once we get through this next piece, while maybe you guys do that. So I'll stop sharing, Wojciech.
Yeah, no.
Actually, Cogs,
yeah.
You got your live telemetry around?
Yeah, yes, I do. Absolutely. You want me to show that now?
Yeah. So Laurent actually asked a question about that. About that. So if we've got a bit of time.
Yeah. I'm more than happy to show that. So what we did was we we run a Node.js telemetry using MQTT connected to RabbitMQ. So the data ingestion piece is running a Rabbit messaging queue. And so we can connect into that using WebSockets. So this is the game being run. You can see that I've got my live timing going on in the top there, which turns I'm in. We've actually added a little bit more information now. So in turns, we can see what gear we were in as we went through the turn. So we're adding to this all the time. Wojciech didn't like my styling of the accelerator and brake. So we've been tweaking that. You can't please everybody, honestly.
Yeah.
It's just
some people.
But you can see we've got a live. Yeah, we use what we've done is we've created SVGs of all of the tracks. So if you want to use those SVGs images, they're very lightweight images, and we animate those SVGs using just Node.js in this case. They're all available on GitHub. So we've published all of these. Obviously, the sectors are all in there. Normally, if the video played, it would be nice and smooth and real time, obviously. But you can follow the track round. If you go off track, it puts a little black and white flag and says it was an invalid lap. But this is all done using WebSockets and is very, very cool. You have the ability to go and write these. I'm more than happy to share the code for these things. We're not hiding anything. What we will do as add-on hands-on labs is show you how to build some of these things going forward. So we'll publish some of these going forward so that you can play with them yourselves. We'd also love to see what other people come up with. I think, Wojciech, you built one of these in Jet, which is Oracle's front-end JavaScript.
Yeah, we did the session on that last year on the Pi Day, where we had actually not as nice looking dashboard, but all part of the iterations and so on, and we are able to consume the data in real time. And then I think you actually reused some of our ideas with regards to moving the steering wheel there.
Yes, I did. I actually pinched your steering wheel, actually. So
that's all right.
I couldn't be bothered creating my own, so I copied yours.
That's all right. And then I think just the kind of final piece on the demo, if I can just share. So essentially, because obviously we didn't run the game during the lab, but this is essentially what it would look like if you would be running the game with what Stuart just shared, right? So this is a nice montage that was done by Jason. So as he going through the the lab in the actual game, this is being constantly streamed into our database and capturing that. So this is the previous iteration of what Stuart said, and as you can see, this is essentially consuming data in the real time. So this is all the data that we'll be sending to the VM and storing in a database. But if you plug into that RabbitMQ socket that we talked about earlier and what Stuart just showed, these are the type of outputs you can actually generate. And this is your previous iteration of the dashboard itself and the real live track. So there's, and like I said, we did I don't know, that might be actually a public repo with regards to our AR replay. So there's like Stuart said, we probably do some spin-offs from this lab to actually show you how to manage the APIs to allow places like the either iPads or any other sort of AR or VR devices, and then consume that X, Y, and Z data. Maybe we'll get next year a nice new headset that's been recently announced. And then maybe even that, right? I don't know.
What would that be then?
What would that be? Yeah.
Well, actually, I just want to say just very quickly for those that do either analytics or want to use Apex to do what we just did there. So all of our track maps come from the data that you're ingesting. They're not images. So even though I've created SVGs now, the SVGs are from the data that you're ingesting. So they are scatter charts, and they literally use the X, Y, Z. I don't know where you get the Z from. It's Z where I come from. XY, so we use the XY coordinates to do a scatter chart. So again, you can build those maps yourself. We will be doing the new tracks that are available, Vegas and Qatar, in the new game. And obviously there's been some tweaks to some of the tracks for 23, but all done with scatter charts. So again, we use Oracle Analytics Cloud to do some of the eSports stuff. Every map you see that we generate is from the data, not an image, which is kind of cool, especially when you're doing the 3D stuff, the VR and AR. We can generate all of those sorts of maps. And when you do get the Z coordinates in, you can obviously get some of the track elevations, which is nice and neat. The other thing we do have, we don't use that often, but we've been talking about this recently, is you actually get the car position on the track in terms of its pitch, yaw and roll. So you've actually got car elevation. So again, if you want to measure things like oversteer and understeer, if you're into that kind of thing, you do have that data available. The game does put it out, so you can play with some really cool things. We'd love to see what you guys come up with, by the way. I mean, we do this so we can do our day jobs, but actually there's so much more we could do if we had the time.
Also, there are UDP specs around what comes out. So even though we're just showing a subset of information,
I think I have it.
We can actually, you can extend that and actually get more data out of that as well.
Yeah, so this is the F1 2023. So essentially you can download that from forum, and it consists all the information about available data, and you can create your own haptic devices that can respond to your steering as well as elevation and a whole bunch of different cool things. But yeah, this is the Bible essentially that was used to actually create the outputs and so on. So you have the information about all the individual packets and so on. So
the current version that's on the data ingestion is suitable for 2021 and 2022, the year versions of that. We did find over time, especially when we're going through with 2022 from the early times, that even though it's documented a certain way, that some things change. So there was a little bit of tweaking along the way in terms of just managing that data coming through. Ultimately, all that was actually then converted into JSON format of the information that we wanted to focus on, such that we're not collecting all the data and just working on the data that we wanted to.
Alrighty, well, that concludes everything for today. So I just want to say thank you again, everyone, so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.